Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for all your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. What's up, everybody? My name is JT Magnum here along with Siggy Guns, and welcome to Fantasy Football Fiends Week 6 Stardom Situm Show. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for the support that they've been showing us. Everybody's been asking us tons and tons of questions, whether on Twitter or in the comment section, and we're doing our best to help you out. We're having fun doing this, and we love to bring you this content every week. And so, and like I said, any feedback is always welcome, and we appreciate all the love and support you guys have shown us. Now, for those of you guys that are new to watching this, I'd like to quickly explain what we do. We have a ticker here at the bottom. Those are our rankings. We do quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. We leave out kickers. But we do our rankings judged per week. So these rankings that you see here, they're judged for the week that it is as playing. So this week is obviously week 6. So these are our week 6 rankings based on who the players are playing and and what's going on. So that's how we do the ticker. And then we always run through our 3 best of waiver wires, sleepers, starts, and sits. So with that being said, first of all, we're going to talk about some injuries, some key injuries that happened over the week. Number 1 being Monte Ball from Denver, Calvin Johnson, Reggie Bush from the Lions, Donald Brown from the Chargers, Rashad Jennings, and Zach Stacy was kind of banged up, but from what I hear, he's going to play Monday night against the 49ers. But these are guys, if you have them on your team, you might want to check their backups, check on them, monitor them, what they're doing, and we'll get to more of that later on during the week. Other than that, we're going to get right into our waiver wire pickups, and let's talk waiver, Siggy. Who's your 3 waiver wire picks for this week?
All right, I got Odell Beckham, Brandon Oliver, and Ronnie Hillman, and I'll go ahead and talk about Brandon Oliver. He's a pickup. And I know he had a great game because he had like a Darren Sproles look. I think he's even wearing the same number as him when he was in San Diego.
Yeah, looked like him completely.
He did. I do want to give some cautious though. He's a good pickup in my opinion for just the next couple of weeks, knowing that what's his name might have a concussion, Donald Brown, or he has a concussion, but he might not play, and it looks like Matthews is going to be out maybe a couple more weeks up into the bye. So he's definitely worth the pickup, but I do not want you to think that because he had this monster game against the Jets, which obviously at this point the game was already out of hand, and they weren't playing all their starters anymore, so anybody can run up and down the team. And it's one of those things where everybody rushed to get this guy, but don't be disappointed if you see numbers not even close to being like this, especially once Matthews comes back. But he is a good pickup for this week.
Yeah, my 3 waiver wire pickups, also one of them is Brandon Oliver. I also have Ronnie Hillman and Jeremy Ross. And I'll talk about Jeremy Ross because Calvin Johnson is banged up. It looks like they might shelve him for maybe a couple weeks. Maybe could be more, but they're trying to get him better because right now Megatron is just like he's broken down. Like he can't play. And if you have Jeremy Ross, he is obviously Golden Tate is the guy that's going to be getting a lot of the catches, but Jeremy Ross is going to be that second wide receiver and that explosive downfield threat. So that's the guy I would look to pick up. In case you have Calvin Johnson injured on your team. And that's a big loss for having Calvin Johnson injured. So let's get into our stardom portion of the show. Who's your 3 must-starts at quarterback?
Must-starts at quarterback. It's I have Andy Dalton, I have Tony Romo, and I have also Austin Davis. And I'll go ahead and talk about why I have Romo and Austin Davis more, even though they both are playing defenses that are very good. Austin Davis at home has been playing really well, and I don't think the 49ers defense, for some reason, I just don't trust this game. I think this is a trap game for San Francisco. And Davis has actually been slinging the ball a lot. And the same with Romo. The LOB, Seattle, I know their defenses are awesome, But I just have a feeling that Romo's offense, or just the Cowboys period, could come in there and throw up a lot of points. So a lot of people are going to have them probably in the sits. I'm going to be completely opposite on that with those two defenses. So
I agree with you on the Romo, because I just feel like the Cowboys offense now that they're actually using DeMarco Murray, it's a little bit different offense. You can't just key on their passing game anymore, and that's what the LOB thrives on. And if you can run on Seattle, which has been hard to do this year, they're not giving up that much, but if you can run on Seattle, then you can pass on them. That's the only way. That's the only way to pass on Seattle, is to run on them first. So we'll see what happens this week. But I do actually like Romo with you this week as well. But my 3 must starts this week are Eli Manning, Brian Hoyer, and Russell Wilson. And we'll talk about Hoyer. He quietly is doing amazing work for the Browns. Without wide receivers, without Josh Gordon, he doesn't have his stud wide receiver. Tight end's been injured for some of the year. His running back, Ben Tate's been injured. He just came back last week. But he quietly has been doing really well. Very calm in the pocket. Very, very good quarterback. And as you remember, they played the Steelers earlier this year. Were getting killed. And came back, almost won that game. So look for Hoyer. And then last week, what does he do? He comes back again from down to, 28-3? So look for Hoyer to have a good game this week against the Steelers, who are banged up. They are banged up in their secondary, and they're not the same secondary that they faced in the first game of the season when Cleveland came back on them. So I would definitely look. And Cleveland's got some good wide receivers, good young talent. Hawkins, that dude Travis Benjamin, they got some Miles Austin. They got some good wide receivers on that team. So look for Cleveland's Brian Hoyer to have a good game this week. So who's your must-start running backs?
I got Ben Tate, I got Shane Vereen, and I got LaShawn McCoy. And I'll go ahead and talk about LaShawn McCoy, because you had him as a start last week, and he did nothing.
He's killing me this year.
Everybody's about to give up on him, and I just think that this game already, even though it's only week 5, is the put up or shut up game, and it's going to be the game that defines him for the rest of the season, in my opinion. So he's either going to come out on a game that on paper, Giants, Eagles, should be, especially on Sunday night, should be a high-scoring game, points for everyone, in my opinion. And McCoy has to be the guy that gets a lot of points in there. So I would say start him with confidence at this point, even though it's shaky at best. But it has to be. This game just, on paper, tons of points. Has to be.
Well, my 3 running backs are Justin Forsett, Ben Tate as well, and Lamar Miller. And we'll talk about Lamar Miller. The Packers, I for sure thought last week they were going to give up lots of rushing yards to the Vikings, but for some reason the Vikings just, imploded last week. But I'm looking at Lamar Miller coming in. The Dolphins run the ball. That's their key. They have to run the ball. So I look at Lamar, and the Packers giving up a lot of yards per game rushing, but just happened to be last week they didn't. But I like Lamar Miller running the ball hard against them this week. So look for him to get 100-something yards and maybe a touchdown or 2. Who's your wide receivers must starts this week?
Well, we talked about that game just now, the Eagles and the Giants. And Victor Cruz, now that Odell Beckham is there, he's going to demand some coverage because of his height and stuff like that. This guy's a high draft pick. He got a touchdown last week. I think the Giants are going to be a better team with him, and I just think that means that now Victor Cruz is to have a lot of pressure all the time on him being the number 1. I expect him to break out. And then Macklin and Brandon Quick. Again, I just think Davis has been throwing the ball very well.
Brian Quick?
Yes. And I just think that he's been throwing Austin has been throwing the ball very well, and I think Quick's going to be the receiving end of it against the 49ers defense.
Yeah, and my 3 are Golden Tate. I have Reuben Randall and Justin Hunter. And Reuben Randall is one of those guys that, like you said, that helps Victor Cruz. He's been emerging. So now with Odell Beckham Jr. and Reuben Randall doing well, that opens up Victor Cruz, like you said. But I'm going to talk about Golden Tate. He's going to get the ball. He's quietly one of the NFL top leading receivers in yardage. And now that Megatron's going to be most likely out, he's going to get a lot of the catches. He's kind of like that Hines Ward type of guy where he's not the fastest guys, but he's very shifty, makes a lot of moves, and he just gets open. Always finds the seam, always finds an open area, and I like Golden Tate a lot when it comes to, confidence in getting yardage and catches, and he always gets that first down. So he's probably going to have a great week this week against the Vikings, who don't have that great of a pass defense. So who's your must-start tight ends?
Well, it seems like they're always the same names. Obviously, Delaney Walker against Jacksonville has to be a guy you got to start with confidence. And with this defensive matchup, it looks like on paper, Carolina to Cincinnati, I have Greg Olsen again as a must start. And on the last person I have is Antonio Gates. He's kind of been away, disappeared a little bit, but against Oakland, it's a tremendous matchup against for him. But anyways, those three must starts.
My three are Eric Ebron, Greg Olsen, and Delaney Walker as well. I've talked about Greg Olsen and Delaney Walker in the past, so we'll talk about Ebron. He, for the last 2 weeks, he's actually scored a touchdown twice in 2 games in a row. So he's starting to get some catches. He's starting to get more acclimated in the offense, and I think Detroit is starting to utilize him. And now with Megatron gone, they need height, so they're going to be throwing more to tight ends. You're going to see a lot more double tight end packages. And you're going to see a lot more, like I said, Golden Tate and Jeremy Ross. So the other wide receiver benefactor is going to be Eric Ebron, who's a nice, tall, athletic tight end. So look for him to take flight against the Vikings this week. Who's your start defenses?
Start defenses. San Diego must start defense. I also have, sorry. Got some stuck. Tennessee's defense against Jacksonville, and then Baltimore's defense against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it looks like Tennessee, anybody that plays Jacksonville, just seems like it's always a must start. It seems like that's the fantasy thing this year. Like you start anybody against Jacksonville or the Raiders.
and also for some reason Tennessee plays tough at home, and it's just funny how that team is so bad on the road, and then at home they're a completely different team. And then, of course, playing Jacksonville just makes it they're going to be even better looking at home.
Yeah, for my 3 defenses, I have the Packers, the Lions, and the Chargers. And the Packers, I mean, they're going against the Dolphins, and you saw what they did last week to Minnesota. I mean, I know that I have Lamar Miller going against them, but they're gonna probably pick off Tannehill. They're probably gonna get some sacks. They're gonna get some stuff. With them, you always get turnovers, and that's the main thing about them. With Julius Peppers playing that team and Clay Matthews flying at the quarterbacks, it's really, really easy to pick up turnovers, get some interceptions, tip balls, things like that. So that's why I like Green Bay this week as a must start. So let's get into the sit 'em portion now. Who's your 3 quarterbacks that you'd like to sit this week?
I know he did awesome, but I'm going to say Tom Brady this week against Buffalo, Cam Newton against Cincinnati, and I got to go with Cousins against Arizona. Sorry. Almost wanted to say RG3. Those are the 3. And I'll go ahead and talk about why Cousins has not been the same since he bust out of the scene after RG3 came out. He's just been playing bad. And then the Arizona Cardinals defense is actually pretty good, and they're playing at home. And I just see it even worse for him. So if you drafted or picked him up on the waivers thinking that he was going to be this 300-yard, 3-touchdown guy every week, sorry to say, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, Cousins has been like off and on. He did okay against Seattle, just not great. It's not like he's not going to have super fantasy numbers every week. That's the thing with Cousins, but and Tom Brady, he's not just saying that because he's a Jets fan, guys. That's all. And for me, my 3, or you're going to laugh when you hear my 3, Teddy Bridgewater, because he's most likely going to start this week. He could have started last week if they gave him an extra day, but he's back.
I actually think he's going to do good at home, but go ahead.
And my second guy is Tom Brady, going against the Bills, and Nick Foles. And I'll talk about Tom Brady. He did great. Magically, all of a sudden, Tom Brady was Tom Brady again against the Bengals. He was all superb. He was finding guys fast, getting rid of the ball. Everything was just amazing. It was like the stars were aligned perfect for Tom Brady to just kill the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Well, here comes the Bills. The Bills quietly have amassed one of the best defenses in the NFL this year, at least for the most part. They're excellent against the run. Their pass rush is ridiculous, and the linebackers get after it, and the corners are actually playing very good football. So And Tom Brady has a history of struggling against this Bills team. I mean, back in the day when it was like the 2000s, it might have been a little bit different. But this is a different Bills team from that time, and that defense is playing amazing football. And I mean, you saw what they did with the Lions. And another thing that they're doing, Bills are hurting players. They hurt the Bears the first game. They hurt Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey. They hurt Forte. They've been hurting. Every time they play a team, they've taken out the best player on that team, it seems like. So if I were Brady, I'd be scared because if they get to him, they might hurt him. So I actually look for Tom Brady to struggle this week.
I think so also. And there was and that's like the LaShawn McCoy thing. The last week, Brady, that was a statement game for him. Everybody was talking about, you saw the memes, he needs to retire if he sucks, etc. Yeah. And that game was just him on a high, and now he's going to be on the road against it just seems like
it's a setup game. It's a setup game.
Exactly.
It's a setup for him to fail. I mean, who knows? We could be wrong, but I'm just saying I think he's going to struggle. So who's your sits for running back?
I got Doug Martin, Matt Asiata, and Alfred Morris. And I'm going to talk about Matt Asiata. Asiata, he's been serviceable. Obviously, a lot of people picked him up after the AP stuff, the Adrian Peterson incidents. But now it's starting to look like that experiment is starting to dwindle, and I think McKinnon is eventually going to get more carries. Now, while the carries were still heavily in favor of Asiata against Detroit, he doesn't stand much of a chance. He has a little bit of fumbling problem, or it looks like, in already his young career, I guess, his carries. And I just think that if you count on him, you probably picked up hoping he was going to be a starter for a while. I think it's time that you might want to think about getting somebody else.
Yeah, my must-sits for running backs are Giovanni Bernard, Zach Stacy, and Alfred Morris. And we'll talk about the Cardinals' defense. They're missing Calais Campbell. But for some reason, they're missing Darnell Dockett, Calais Campbell now, and they seem to be missing guys on defense, but yet they're still amazing against the run. I don't know what it is with the Cardinals why they play so well against the run. Maybe it's their scheme or whatever, but they seem to be you can plug in anybody for some reason and stop the run. And they're also missing Darrell Washington. Carlos Dansby from last year. I thought this year that the Cardinals were going to give up tons of yardage on the run, but they really haven't at all. And I think Alfred Morris, unfortunately, he's going to have problems this week against that team trying to run the ball because they stack the line of scrimmage and they play really good defense. So who's your wide receiver sits?
Des Bryant. I got Roddy White again and Wes Welker. And I'm going to talk about Des Bryant. While I do think Tony Romo and the Cowboys are going to have a pretty good game against Seattle, I think Des Bryant, though, since he commands the most attention, I just think that the LOB is going to be so focused on him that he's not going to have much of a game. And you could see that everybody they played so far, the main number one receivers struggled against the team because they usually not only put Sherman, but it seems like everybody on that guy. So they definitely make sure that it's one-dimensional in regards to who you're going to be throwing it to or the offense as a whole. So I think you were right about DeMarco Murray and stuff like that is going to make it to where other people are open more. So Des Bryant would be the guy you got to sit. And that's hard to sit an ace like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Beasley and Terrence Williams that get the looks. I have, because my sits for wide receivers, Des Bryant and Mike Wallace and Brian Quick, your boy that you wanted to start. I have. I'm going to talk about Brian Quick since you touched up on Bryant. Parrish Cox is playing amazing football. Everybody that he's covered this year, he's been shutting them down. He's quietly one of the best cornerbacks this year in the NFL based on percentage of, what the quarterback rating is when they throw towards his way, which is like 40-something% rating or something, or 46 point something rating, I believe, like that. Which is ridiculous. He's like fifth in the NFL. Highest rated cornerback in the league. So Parrish Cox has been playing amazing football, and who you think is going to line up on him? It's going to be Parrish Cox over Culliver, definitely, for sure. So I look for Brian Quick to have a rough day because they're going to be double and triple teaming him as much as they can, and with Parrish Cox being on him as well. So who's your sits for tight ends?
I got Jason Witten, I got Jared Cook, and I got Donnell. Exactly what we say? Is it Donnell?
Larry Donnell? Larry Donnell? Yeah. Or Donald?
It's Donnell, right?
Oh, I hope it's not Donald. Well, whatever. Larry Donnell or Larry Donnell. There you go.
I believe it's Donnell. Obviously, our comment section is going to let us know.
Yeah, got me 0 points last week.
And I will go ahead and talk about him right now because he was obviously a bust starter. A lot of people's league probably thought, oh, he got the 3 touchdowns, right? Now, I think, though, now that Eli has Beckham Jr. and the fact that the receivers as a whole are looking better, he doesn't need that safety blanket anymore. And again, this game, I got a feeling it's going to be a high-scoring game. Usually when that happens, you don't look at the tight ends, when you're a quarterback. You're looking at, your deep routes, you're looking at slants, et cetera, to try, to move the ball down the field, trying to score quickly this is a game that's set up like that, and you're not going to have your tight end be the one getting the load. So that's the reason why I have Donnell on the sit list.
Yeah, my 3 are Jason Witten against the Seahawks, Dwayne Allen, and Charles Clay. And the reason I'm putting Dwayne Allen on there, everybody's on a high with him right now because he's been scoring his last 3 or 4 games, I believe, for the Colts. But the Texans play tough D. Texans have really, really tough D, and I think they're going to be keying on him because obviously they know that he's the threat right now for the end zone. So I think that's going to open up stuff for Colby Fleener actually this week and not Dwayne Allen because they're going to be keying more on Dwayne Allen more than Colby Fleener. So if you have Dwayne Allen, if you're high on him, and people are telling you, oh, you got to pick him up, you got to start him now, I don't think he's a must start for this week going against that Texans defense who played very tough, and they did a great job on Witten last week. So who's your sit-em defenses?
Now, I touched up on these 2 games already. I just have a feeling Dallas is going to score all of them in Seattle, so I have Seattle on my sit list. I have San Francisco on my sit list, and also have Green Bay Packers on my sit list. Now,
big names.
Those are big name defenses, especially San Francisco and Seattle. And I touched up on a little bit why I thought that they're on the road, and these 2 teams are playing with at their place usually play pretty good. But as far as St. Louis goes to San Francisco, but then the Cowboys, I just have a feeling. For some reason, I just had this feeling, I guess because I live here in Fort Worth, in the Dallas area, that they're just going to be scoring a lot this game. So I see those 2 defenses that you usually would never sit in any situation. I just have a feeling that these 2 defenses are going to let you down this week. And then Green Bay and Miami. Miami, for some reason, can score points whenever they want to, and I just think it's not safe to play Green Bay's defense against Miami.
Yeah, my sit-ems this week for defenses are the Cowboys going against the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks have one of those offenses that it's hard to stop them. So and then I have the Texans against the Colts because it's hard to stop Andrew Luck from throwing all these red receivers, and the Eagles playing the Giants. And I'm going to talk about the Eagles. There have been a team that have been surprisingly every week they're scoring all these defensive touchdowns. Now I know they're playing Eli Manning this week, but they seem to always struggle for some reason when they play the Giants and Eli Manning lights them up. So, for some reason, I think this is the week where, obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. is now there. Ruben Randle's been playing good. Victor Cruz is now playing good. They got Larry Donald on that team. Andre Williams is starting for him this week and running the ball, and the Giants do run the ball. They do not stop running, and I think Andre Williams is a really good running back for the Giants. We'll talk about him in a second, but I just think the Eagles, this is not the week if you have the Philadelphia Eagles defense to start them. So let's get into the sleepers. All right, who's your 3 sleepers of the week?
My 3 sleepers, you had one of them on there. I have Golden Tate, Brandon Oliver, and Fred Jackson. And I'll go ahead and talk about Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson with Kyle Orton, the one thing we saw with Kyle Orton is that he likes to dump it off to his running backs. And while you would think C.J. Spiller would be that guy, it was Fred Jackson that was getting all the work, it looked like. And Fred Jackson, for some reason, he's always been over-reliable. He's the old faithful. And he's a guy that it looks like they're going to continue to be splitting at least 50-50 or maybe even give him more. It's been looking like, if you look at the trend the last couple of weeks, I just think Fred Jackson is a great sleeper player in a game that looks like it could be high scoring. You got New England in town, so if they fall behind early, he could be using the screens. Or if he's up ahead, they're going to be using him rushing and in the screen game. So I just think he's going to have a really good game.
Yeah, I believe he's the oldest running back in the NFL right now.
He's old faithful, man.
Yeah, but he's good. He's still good.
Yep.
My sleepers are Andre Williams, who I just talked about, Luke Wilson, and Devin Hester. Devin Hester going against his former team, the Falcons. Now, I'm going to talk about Luke Wilson, though. The Cowboys, for some strange reason, have struggled all year long against tight ends. I've said it a million times. They struggle against good, fast tight ends. Luke Wilson is one of those secret weapons for Seattle that they Zach. His name is Zach Morris. Why am I saying Zach Morris? Zach Wilson.
You talking about
Saved by the Bell, Zach Morris.
Yeah, you're talking about
Zach Miller. I'm sorry, Zach Miller.
Zach Miller.
Zach Miller is on that team. He's hurt, and Luke Wilson's taking his place. He's not the best of blockers for Seattle, but Zach Morris. I'm still laughing about that. He's not the best of blocker for Seattle, but he is crazy lightning fast, and Cowboys for some reason struggle in coverage with fast tight ends. So I look for a lot of play action, and they're going to be throwing over the top to this guy Luke Wilson this week. They didn't use him this much this past game against the Redskins, but I think they're going to use him a lot against the Cowboys. So if you have a tight end that you need to pick up, you got Jimmy Graham on a bye, you got Travis Kelce on a bye, who the Saints and the Chiefs this week have a bye. Pick up Luke Wilson. If he's got to be available in almost every league. I don't think very many people picked him up, unless you're like a Seattle fan playing fantasy football. But I mean, literally, he's probably going to be available in almost every league. So if you can pick him up, pick him up. All right, that'll do it for the Stardom Sid'em show. Leave your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to tweet us at SiggyV for Siggy Guns and at Optimus Magnum for me. If we don't get to him in the comment section, try to reach us on Twitter. We'll try to get to it there. Siggy does his best to make sure he gets to almost every comment he can on there. I do my best to try to check it at night when I get home from work and get on the comments. But if we don't get to your comments, we do apologize. But we are trying to get to everyone we can. It's just kind of hard to get to them, all of them. But we try our best. So feel free to keep asking us questions. We'll try to help you out the best we can. And good luck and best of luck on week 6. Hope you guys all do great. And anything you want to add?
That's it.
All right.
Hopefully this week is a lot better than what we did last week.
Oh yeah. Well, we did okay. It just wasn't one of our best weeks, But for JT Magnum and Siggy Guns, Fantasy Football Fiends, we out. Peace.
Peace.